Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live on Instagram. I'm very excited today. I have a special friend that I just recently meet on Threads, Diana Vanessa, and she's going to talk about her Venus karma story. Hi, Sunny Flu. Thank you for joining. I also want to give a shout out to Jasmine Astrology. Please check her out. She connected us all on Threads. That's how Diana and I met. If you are on Threads, be sure to follow all these ladies. They're very active. Yeah, hi. Yeah, so we'll see how we're going to talk about Venus and what does Venus represent, and so you can always share your questions and stories. Hi, Astrology in Style, your Venus stories as well. So if you have any questions about Venus, and did you feel Venus story in your life as well? Okay. What time is it at your place? Are you again awake in the middle of the night? Oh boy. Okay, there she is.
Hi,
Hello, Diana.
Justina. How are you?
Good. Hi. Thank you so much. Nice to see you again.
Nice to
Thank you
see you
so much
too.
for, yeah, I really appreciate your time to do this with me and be my guest today. And I'm so excited, and I can't wait for you to share your Venus story with all of us. Amazing. So, I just had a little introduction before you joined. I told everybody that we met in Threads. So whoever is on Threads, please make sure you follow Diana, and here as well. But she has great content on Threads. I really encourage you to go there. And another shout out to Jasmine Astrology, who introduced us and make all this happen. Yeah, she couldn't make it today, but overall, I'm happy that you could. And I'm so excited to hear about everything about your Venus karma story. So, here's Jasmine Astrology. Hi, I was just telling how you introduced us and you made it happen. Hi, White Lotus Astrology. Amazing, amazing community here. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. Um, so before we start with Venus, tell me in a few words, how did you come up with astrology? How did astrology found you?
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say real quick, Jasmina, is first of all, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I cannot see your beautiful face right now, so I figured there may be glitches. So as long as you're okay with that, I'm not sure
Yes,
how to remedy that on my end.
I know it happens. You cannot. This is I have done so many lives so far, and sometimes we don't see each other, but
Okay,
it's
okay, okay,
but people see us. I know that people can see us both. I already verified, so
okay,
it's
perfect.
unusual.
And can they hear us too?
Yes, they can hear us and see us for sure.
Okay,
It's just hi, Heather. So many lovely people joining us today.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. So anyway, now that I know that everyone can hear us, and even though I can't see you, other people can see you, I will just go ahead and start. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I started practicing astrology in 2022, and my Venus in Aquarius story has a lot to do with this. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about it at the end. But I was going through a midlife crisis, and I thought the world was ending. And one of the things that I found as medicine was astrology, and I'll talk a little bit about how I found astrology. And I loved it so much, I became obsessed with it, and I decided to make it my professional practice within 7 months of me reading my first astrology report. So I turned my Venus into an obsession, or a deep desire, deep love for this practice. And so I'm relatively new to it, but I am a human computer, so I've been absorbing a lot of information, and I'm just happy to be here so that I can share it with everyone else. Oh, and
Amazing.
prior to
Yeah.
that, I think this is important too. Prior to becoming a professional astrologer, I practiced law for 15 years at a large law firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I specialized in international franchise law. So, if that's of
Mm-hmm.
any note,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I know you have great content, as I mentioned before, on Threads. So I want to encourage everybody to go there, even here on Instagram. But Threads is really your niche. I can sense that. I love it. You know how when you're passionate about something, how it shows. I love
Yeah.
that, and it shows with you. So that's amazing. Venus in Aquarius, you have your Venus return because Venus is in Aquarius right at the moment. So I think this is very appropriate that we talk about this, and I thank you for choosing this topic. It's really amazing. Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us your story. Everybody's very excited to hear what happened. Tell us.
Oh, okay. So you flipped the script on me. I was going to tell the story later, but I'm going to switch it up
Okay.
real quick for everyone. So I'll start with this story first. So the story is a little bit of what I previously told you. In late 2021, I was going through what everyone else I think would just refer to as a midlife crisis. But for astrologers who know, these type of transits or life events coincide with certain astrological transits that are happening in the sky. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that my life was feeling very effed up and I didn't know what to do about it. So, Jasmina, I started doing what any Capricorn sun would do. And I just tried to figure out how I could make myself work functional again. I was literally looking for ways to be able to get back to baseline working so that I could keep working as a lawyer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I wasn't excited about what I was doing, but
Mhm.
I'm also a pretty practical person. So I just knew that I needed to somehow keep making money and it was going to be doing something I didn't really care for. But I mean, that was the situation I was in. So I was trying to figure out, I was taking all kinds of medication. I was, doing all kinds of alternative medication to try to troubleshoot myself
Okay.
back to that functional state. And
Okay.
yes, the typical the Capricorn, work, 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 work. That is all of those things you read about Capricorn signs apply to me. So anyway, I I can't remember how I fell into how I got on cafeastrology.com, but I ended up going to that website. I ended up plugging in my birth date. I was curious about what the birth chart would say about me and my personality and maybe give me some insight into the mess that I was frankly in. So anyway, I read the report and it made a lot of sense. It was in plain English, right? But there was a lot of it that
Okay.
just did not make sense. Do you want me to stop there?
Sure. Whatever you feel like. I know that this is such a. I'm on my toes. I'm just excited to hear. Yeah, I know. But when you first time you see your chart, you kind of think, what is this all about, right? You want to decode
Yeah,
the
I
symbols and
wanted to.
make sense of
Mhm.
it. Hmm.
I mean, that was my experience with charts when I first started. I was just like, okay, I'm reading these words, but they're not clicking or resonating necessarily, right? I was interested in what I was learning. It was taking me down this intellectual rabbit hole that I love, right? But what really resonated for me was a description of my Venus in the report.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So when I was telling you and Jasmine this story, when I had to go back and I was preparing for this presentation, I was like, what was it that really I told you, and so I'm going to go there. Okay. So I was reading the report, and then there was something in this report that alluded to the fact that I had an issue with lack of restraint. Okay. So it
Mhm.
said something
Okay.
like, you're the kind of person who, if a recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, you're just going to go ahead and put two anyway, because why not? Okay. And I thought that was hilarious because I was like, how does this little computer generated report know that I'm the kind of girl who likes to put 2 cups of sugar in regardless, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, it just makes it a little bit sweeter. Why not? Um, so that's what did it. And it was interesting because it was describing my Venus in aspect to my Jupiter sign, my Jupiter
Okay. Okay.
placement and sign. And so it creates what we know as astrologers as a square. And
Oh yeah.
whenever there's a square between Venus, which we're going to talk about is what we like and attract, and Jupiter, which one of the significations or expression of Jupiter is that it expands things. So I like to expand things. I have an issue with restraint when it comes to Venus issues. And so that was the little ding ding ding.
And I
And
love
I was like yeah, and then I was like Alice in Wonderland, and I jumped straight into like the little scene where Alice is like drinking all
it.
the tonics and trying to figure out how to get the key to open. That was me with astrology.
Yeah, and I love that because Venus does represent sugar. So the metaphor of actually 2 cups of sugar really resonated. Even they
Yeah.
really hit the point. So did you at that point have a astrology reading from some other astrologer, or did you? Or no, not yet.
No, I hadn't yet. And part of that was because I come from a very what's the word I'm looking for? I had a very fixed mindset around spiritual practices
Okay.
and spiritual
Okay.
beliefs. Okay. So I was sort of looking at the astrology as a bit taboo. I was like, oh, I'm sort of like going into the dark side. And it's sort of like, here's me. Here's me like, going into places my mommy told me never to look into, but I was like,
Okay.
this sees me, right? And I
Which
like
Venus in Aquarius would also represent, right? Your Venus in Aquarius would represent, going against the conventional pleasures and going the other side, which I love that.
right.
Makes
Right.
sense.
So, yeah, that's one of the lessons about myself. And it helped me to create awareness around the fact that I do like doing things a little bit differently. To answer your question, White Lotus, I'm trying to think, was Uranus playing a role in my cafe astrology finding? It could have, let's see.
Did you
Now
have
that
any did you have Uranus opposition to a natal Uranus or not? Or not in
Well,
that sense?
Uranus has been in my 12th house in Taurus, sort of shaking up. So this would have been
Okay.
2021. 2022 was when I got my first report. So Uranus would have already been shaking up my um it was in Taurus, so it would have been squaring my Venus placements. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It would have already squared my Venus placements at that time. I think I'd have to go back and look at the ephemeris. So yeah, Uranus, which is an energy that shakes things up, was active in my 12th house. And then I just talking to another one of our Threads friends. I talked about how Uranus is my natal Uranus placement is activated right now. So Uranus definitely shakes things up and makes us want to liberate a little bit
Yeah.
and breaks us from sort of these fixed patterns
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
mindsets that we
It's
have.
definitely an awakener. Definitely an awakener in
Yes,
many
yes,
sense. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So what happened after?
Uh, so what happened after is I just lost myself. I mean, I'd already started losing myself the year prior. Um, so I was trying to figure out, like, again, I was like a woman undone. I said everything was messed up. Everything in my life was a hot mess. And so I found this science or this practice. It's like,
Mhm.
now I'm looking at it more of a spiritual practice that really saw
Mhm.
me, and I just wanted to know more. So here's my Aquarius placements triggering again. I got obsessed, Jasmina. It was to the point where I was like working by day, and
Okay.
then
Okay.
staying up all night looking
Mhm.
at astrology, reading all the content I could find about astrology. I was hooked. And
I can testify to that. I had the same kind of a feeling. I was just wondering where was Pluto at that point? Because I know you're a Capricorn. Was Pluto hitting your sun maybe or something?
so, yeah, Pluto was a few degrees, I think, or just right, had just hit my sun. Yeah, Pluto
Yeah.
was involved too, for sure. And so for
Yeah.
the audience who doesn't know, because there's a lot of people in here who
Mm.
don't who are very new to astrology, Pluto is the what of Pluto, or of what it represents. It represents shadow, exploring our shadow side, exploring the subtle undertones of issues like power, control,
Mhm.
manipulation, sex, the things that we consider taboo and don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
So when
But it
Pluto is did you want to have anything to add to that, Jasmina?
uh, just when the Pluto hits your natal planets, from my experience and from clients and to I talk to, it's really transformational. It really, it um, kind of demolishes everything you know, all the found, and then you have to rebuild a new foundation and a new life after that. That's from my experience and from many people and clients I've seen charts. So I feel that something in a way happened to you as well. You were kind of like letting go of the old life and starting to build something new.
And I think that's so prescient considering where we are astrologically today, right? It's we're talking about as a collective how to go about
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And what was interesting was, the Pluto lesson is I got a lot of pushback when I started to, you know, started to do astrology. When I started to obsess over astrology and wasn't getting enough sleep at night, I started sleeping more during the day and setting boundaries that the people that I was working with, they, simply did not like. And so I think it's interesting that you made that point today is that, Pluto, my experience with Pluto is that you don't, you don't sort of go through that experience without a struggle. Um,
Yeah,
and it was a struggle for sure.
yeah. But you definitely, I think, feel you. I definitely feel that on the other side, you come more empowered.
Yeah.
Not powerful, but power filled.
Yes.
So I really,
Yes.
yeah,
That was
amazing.
definitely that's definitely been my experience as well. I just grew like, is this the right thing to say? I was going to say grew a pair, but I mean, I really, after that, I was like, I don't have the time, patience, or energy for anyone else's nonsense. Like, I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to deal with people who aren't dealing with me on an honest level. Like, if you can't get real with me and acknowledge the fact that we all make mistakes, like, I really don't think I can even like, really just not to say break bread with someone, but I found that I had less tolerance for insincerity after that.
And I can sense it, because Pluto as a modern co-ruler of Scorpio, it's all about trust. It's all
Yeah.
about being sincere and 100% there and present. So yeah, so that's a combination of Uranus and Pluto on your Venus. Um, so tell me, so this Venus, okay, what else do you have to tell us about Venus? I know that, we didn't mention that it's a planet of beauty and relationships and money and what we value. That's just in general, but I know you can tell us more for sure.
Yeah. So, and I was just looking at comments from our friends on Threads. Yeah,
Mhm.
everything. I had Pluto in my eighth house on my sun, so I was dealing with all of the. For those of you who don't know, the eighth house in astrology is associated with dark and spooky things, but it's a lot more than that. And so it was very, very Plutonian. If I felt that it was a very Plutonian experience. I wanted to say before I start talking more about Venus, Jasmina, is that becoming obsessed or delving into astrology really helped me become aware of what I was really passionate about.
Mm.
This I found myself in love with what I was learning about my placements. At first I did not like. I'm gonna be real. When I first started understanding my placements, I was like, "This is I don't." There's all this. I have to. I'm still working on the past lives aspect of some of this science or divination. I'm working my mind. My mind is really opening up. And so I'm still evolving as far as my understandings so I want to make that disclaimer. But I would say is that, yeah, I didn't like certain aspects of my chart because I was reading it from the lens of someone who is, typically has imposter syndrome. But what I did love about it was that I felt like it was an opportunity for me to really like understand aspects of my personality and my conditioning, and then to understand and learn how to sort of elevate my energy, so to speak, or vibrate at a different level. And I think this is a great transition into what Venus represents. And so I loved it. And I loved what was happening to me as a result of undertaking that study. And I really wanted to share it with people. I found my calling. I was like, I
Yeah.
love this. I want to scream to the mountaintops, like,
It,
for people who it will resonate with. that this is a
Yeah,
way that you can help to understand yourself, and it creates more awareness, and it helps us to be more compassionate when we think about the fact that we all have each of us has our own birth chart, and we all have our karmic lessons that we're learning in this lifetime. And so I thought that
yeah.
was beautiful.
I think it's amazing because you are doing your chart, I think, finally, because with the sun in the eighth house is where you want to shine. This is where you shine in life. And that's the house of occult and deep and transformative energy. So bringing that in your life and then helping others do the same with your practice is something very powerful. And I love it for you. I really, really do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jasmina. And it's given me opportunities to meet people who, yeah, my Venus in Aquarius story also has led me to meet people from all walks of faith and spirituality, and to just be open to that world in a way that I don't know that I would have thought 3 years ago that I would be open. Okay.
Isn't that
Um,
amazing?
yeah,
That is so amazing. And
it is.
it's a lifelong study. Astrology, I think we're gonna, every chart you look, you learn something new, every new chart. So it's a never ending learning opportunity and growing opportunity for everybody. So that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I learn new insight about my chart every day. So even just sharing my chart, when we did a little exercise, like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where
Yeah.
I shared my chart with you, and you were like, why were you ever a lawyer?
Yes.
I was like, yeah, I don't know either. I wanted to help people. I mean, I still have a law license right now. I'm a good lawyer. It's just like, it wasn't, it didn't make my heart sing. I
Yeah.
didn't feel invested in it. When I had to go out and make money, I didn't want to make money doing that. It just wasn't, it just
You have
wasn't
your Venus.
resonating for me.
Sorry, but your Venus is in your ninth house of law, right?
Yeah, so my Venus is in my ninth house, which, as you
Yes, that's
know,
why.
has to do with
Yeah.
law and foreign
Yeah.
culture. So the
Yeah.
international franchise law totally is on the nose for having Venus. Actually, depending on the system you use, Venus is not in my ninth house, but for purposes of whole sign, it is. So it makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, and then my chart ruler, Mercury, is also in my ninth house, and that's squarely in my
Yes.
ninth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My brother's in here. He just said you followed your heart. I sure did, bro. Just like you are. That's,
I love
yes.
it.
Yes. He's one of my diehard Taurus loves. Just really, really good, honest, earnest folks. So thank you. All right. So I want to talk about Venus because everyone didn't come here.
Okay.
People want to know about this potential that I'm talking about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have some assumptions that I wanted to go off of first, but let me see. I was just let me just give a few of these. So astrology blew my mind when I started learning. I mentioned that already. I had a very fixed mindset, so I really had to figure out for myself over these last 2 years, really how to reconcile what I was learning with my
Mm-hmm.
then current beliefs. And so I think when
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about this, I love the folks that are in here, and it's indicating to me that you come in here with an open mind.
Yep.
I always operate from the premise that I'm here to learn from you and you're learning from me, and that we're all in here learning from each other. So I love and think that it's so important that we remember how to sort of keep ourselves open to different perspectives. Um, I also have to mention, I think, for the purpose of this group that we're with, that we sort of need to try to, when we talk about Venus, and we're talking about these other planets, um, we're really talking about it from the premise that we're all energetic beings.
Mm-hmm.
So not only can we see each other, touch each other, hear each other, we can also feel each other's energy, right? Um, to a
Yeah.
certain extent, outside of that, right? And we're talking more about what that is, but it's really connecting. Those feelings are connected to our primal instincts, right,
Right.
Jasmina?
Yes, I was just gonna say, you know how you feel per people, somebody comes into a room and you said, "Oh my God, his energy. Oh my God, I can feel it." You know, it's
Right.
that kind of a feeling, right? or vice
Exactly.
versa. Somebody comes in and you're like, oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, he's vibrating. I can feel, and it just catchy. The energy is catching, right? So you
Mhm.
can pick up the energies of other people for real. Yeah, yeah.
100%. And then there's the inverse, right? When someone walks in the room and you're like, oh my God, let me run. Like,
Yeah,
oh, this person is giving me like creepy vibes. Like, let me get out of here. Um,
yeah,
we gotta trust that. That's what we are understanding is our intuition, and that we need to sort. We are learning that those feelings are valid, and that there's something to be explored when we feel them. So the point I'm trying to make with this assumption is that we need to understand that we are metaphysically, chemically, what's another word I'm looking for here? But that we are linked in ways that are not just connected to what we see, hear, touch, feel on a rational mind basis. Does that make sense?
yeah. It's like a sixth sense kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
That is right.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
like that. I like that.
thank you. And then the last one was something that I heard one of my astrology teachers say this morning is to understand, is the segue finally into Venus, is that the sun, moon, and planets in astrology are expressions, okay, of the
Yeah,
type of karma meaning lesson that we need to learn. Okay, and that
yeah,
applies to each of the luminaries, which are the sun and moon, the
yeah,
planets. So the planet that each planet that we talk about is in astrology the what. Okay,
yeah,
and then the
yeah,
zodiac sign that each planet or placement is in is the it's like it shows how that what is operating. I've heard it
yeah.
described, Jasmina, as it's like the zodiac sign is like the costume that the actor is
Mm-hmm.
wearing. The zodiac sign is the flavor of coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that those are just ways to understand why we're talking about Venus. Venus is the what. And without further
Mm-hmm.
ado, Venus as a what is the energetic principle of what we like and attract.
Absolutely. And what we enjoy and what we wish for and what we, yeah, really
Yeah.
pleasures in life, I would
Yeah.
say.
I have a long, yes, all good. I have a long list here. It's how we find cohesion, how
Mm-hmm.
we relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Venus is related to our senses, our sensual nature, our ability to see, touch, taste, smell, hearing.
Mm.
You're not so much with that one. How about with how we
I
express
I am.
affection?
I love
Okay,
that. I love that
okay.
because it's ruling Taurus, so it's absolutely about all the senses. I
Mhm.
100% agree
Okay.
because it is ruling Taurus, so Venus needs to have all this, all this because we have pleasures. When you think about pleasures in life, what we enjoy, we do them through looking at somebody, listening to music, tasting food, touching somebody. That's what it's all
Mhm.
about,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. It's very Venusian. How we express affection, um, our sex appeal and sensuality. You can look
Mm-hmm.
at it. You can understand that a little bit by looking at each of our Venus placements. How we make money, or how we like to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Our creative talents.
Our skills as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Our
Mm-hmm.
skills, our receptivity or lack thereof,
Yeah, yeah.
how
Mm-hmm.
we relate to others. I think we might have said that one already.
It's okay. We can repeat.
Our values, our self worth,
Mm-hmm.
the
And I would just like
art.
to add,
Yeah, go
yes, dear. I
ahead.
just like to add, this is how we spend our money. What you mentioned before is we usually spend money on what we value. So that's where we're going to put our
Exactly.
money. So that's connected. That's the connection between the value
Hmm.
and money.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was also going to say, so like more, or I would say mundane. It's like the art we like, the music we listen to, the types of flowers we like, the perfume or cologne we wear, and the adornments or jewelry that we may or may not like to adorn ourselves with.
Absolutely. Like Venus in Leo likes more gold, or Venus who is connected with Moon likes more silver. So just pay
Mm-hmm.
attention. It's very interesting to
Very,
look at that. Those
very
little placements. I
fascinating.
100%.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, and then so there's also, for all of these energies or these expressions, they're also what we call sort of the less beautiful, or what some people would consider to be the shadow, or sort of what I've heard it referred to as the lower vibration of Venus. So every energy has maybe runs on a spectrum. So there's what we consider maybe the high. I like using higher vibration, lower vibration, and I'm sensitive to other ways that people describe it. But the shadow of Venus. Some shadows are greed, jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
gluttony, superficiality. That's a big one
Yeah.
with Venus, being superficial, and
Possessiveness.
yeah,
Possessiveness.
yeah. Indecision, and I don't know if I said overindulgence, but those were two more that I'd written down based on my notes.
Yeah, yeah. It can be, yeah, overindulgence. Yeah. So when you go by seven sins, lust. It
Mhm.
Venus is more Scorpio. Is it more
Yeah.
like? Well, yeah, is it more Mars or more Venus? Lust. I don't know.
Well, they're interrelated, right? So it's sort of like Mars
Yeah,
and Venus are like, the two of them together represent like the entirety, I guess, of
they're
the
opposite
structure.
sides of the same coin. I would say that
Yeah.
Mars and
So I
Venus.
can see I see the parallels with Venus and lust for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So then the next thing I wanted to talk about was how Venus energy shows up in our lives. So
Mm.
Venus shows, I like this quote from Isabel Hickey. This is a book that I like. It goes into like the spirituality of the astrological placements. It's by Isabel Hickey. And Isabel says Venus shows us how we find beauty and love. In this book, she says we can exist without love and beauty, right? I love this. But she also says we can't really live without love, beauty, cooperation, harmony, and unity. Do you see the difference? We can exist
Uh,
without it, but can we really live if we're not living with the Venusian principles in our lives?
that's not life if it doesn't have the Venus spice on it. I totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Because just existing, it doesn't. It's not living. I love it.
yeah.
Beautiful.
And that's living to have an appreciation of the, I would say what the lighter and the shadow side of Venus, being able to find the beauty even in the lust and the gluttony and the indecision, I think, which is so beautiful because Venus helps us live, right? It's helping us to see, I don't know, I feel like it helps us see the beauty in things that are very conventionally beautiful and the things that are not. Or maybe that's more my Venus and Aquarius talking, but that's just the way I feel.
No. It's very good. I'm always thinking you cannot live in the light without embracing the dark,
Yeah,
because the light wouldn't exist without the dark. So it's like a yin yang. You always have to have a
exactly,
little bit of this. Uh, so that's beautiful,
for
amazing.
sure. So my experience and from my studies, I wanted to talk a little bit about how Venus shows up in our lives and in our charts. And so I'm just going to give a couple of examples for folks so they can sort of understand like Venus. If you have your Venus, your natal Venus placement, you may find if you stop and pay attention is that you will naturally attract sort of like the energy of your Venus placement. And so ways that Venus can show up can be in the types of friends and friends groups.
Yeah.
Um, it can show up as, I typically see it showing up as the feminine, but it can also be a more masculine expression of Venus. So men and females and males showing up. Um, Interestingly, I did a transit reading for a client, and it was very clear that it was a reference to Jupiter, not Venus, actually. So it's not a good example, but it was a man showing up in her life to bring a gift. I thought it was Venus. So anyway, that's not a good example. But anyway, it could be, I've had Venus show up in my chart as new perfume. So this actually happened last week. When Venus was approaching thank you so much, White Lotus. So when Venus was approaching my natal Venus in Aquarius, my Taurus female best friend, okay, recently introduced me to a very new luxurious perfume that I can't even pronounce perfectly or properly. But it was so delicious and it made me delirious.
Amazing.
And yes, and
Amazing.
literally,
And Aquarius, something new, trending. I love that,
mhm. And very different. It wasn't anything she knows that I've got into since. During 2 years ago during my Taurus Scorpio eclipse season. And
Oh
she's
yeah.
like, it was like a whole new world. I literally was falling over myself trying to figure out like how
So
lucky I
I
was.
have a
It was a
question.
blessing.
I have
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So would you classify the Venus in female? Let's say, okay, so I'm gonna astrologically, let's say female or masculine. It's an astrological term. I don't wanna put the gender here, but we have these female and energies which are water and earth, and more male energies that are fire and air. So would you say there are difference in expression the Venus depending on the element or the polarity actually? Are the Venuses in fire and air more assertive, and the other and earth and water more receptive? How do you look at that?
That's a good question. From my experience, I would say generally yes, but I have also seen expressions of Venus that I know personally, people with certain Venus placements that are said to be more masculine, like in the fire signs, like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, or in the air signs, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Um, but it hasn't sort of correlated that way 100% across the board. So I think that's evolving for me, but my general experience is yes, it would show up, that there would be a correlation between, um, sort of like the way the individual likes and attracts energy, and their Venus being a little bit more masculine. I have not seen it 100% linked up, if that
Okay,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It depends also in what house it is, because if it's placed in a opposite house, it can just balance it out. Okay, it was a
Yes.
little like, yeah, a little
Yeah, no, for
digression, but I thought
sure.
it was interesting when
No,
you mentioned this. I thought,
it's a great question and something I'm definitely thinking about thinking about when I think about Venus.
hmm
Venus has also shown up as money, okay, a gift. I've seen Venus show up as a new teacher. It's generally,
hmm
Venus is considered one of the benefics or the blessing type of energy. So it typically, you have to look at your Venus carefully, but it will typically show up as some kind of benefactor or a blessing of sorts. Has that been your experience, Jasmina?
I love my Venus. I have a Venus in Cancer, and I really enjoy cooking, baking, sharing food with others, entertaining. As a Gemini, having people over food coming.
Mhm.
That's so. Yes, that's in that sense I do, and spending money on home accessoire. To be honest, it's or cooking it. Like I have so many pans and pots and all this stuff for cooking, so it's very funny that I actually spend money on it. Um, yes, by Jasmine Astrology. Yes, it will be. I will save this, and I will make Diana a collaborator so you can see on both of our feeds later. Replay. Yes, it will be. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for
You,
joining.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Jasmina, for doing the replay for us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Go ahead. This is so interesting. I'm enjoying, and I love uh your your uh, your Venus in Aquarius approach to this. I love it. Just go
Thank
ahead.
you. Yeah, I was going to say, you guys are all part of my experiment right now as I flex the potential of my Venus in Aquarius. So if we have time at the end, I'll get to that a little bit more. So the next topic I wanted to touch on is how to use the potential of your Venus placement to draw and attract what is in alignment for you. So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you need to know, which you just started to go into, Jasmina, is first thing you want to know is what sign is your Venus in? There are
Mm-hmm.
12 zodiac options to choose from, ranging from Venus in Aries to Venus in Pisces. If you know the sign that your Venus is in, that is great. If you don't know, if you don't know how to look up your birth chart, there are many easy ways to do that online. You can do it, for example, by going to astro.com. They don't pay me for this, but
Yeah,
we all use astro.com for astrology
yeah,
information, and you can go there and you can pull up your chart very quickly, freely, with make sure you know your exact as close as possible to your exact date of birth, your location of birth, and as pretty close as you can get to the time of your birth. And that's how you can figure out what sign your Venus is in. Now the good news is that Venus is usually in Venus is usually in a sign for was it 60 days? I'm blanking on the number and I meant to write it down.
like a month and a half, let's say.
It's
So it's like
so
45
45.
days.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
so it's so typically if you don't know your birth time, you're not going to go, it won't go crazy trying to figure out your Venus placement. But if it's something more sensitive like your ascendant or your moon, then you definitely want to know. I think you definitely want to know your birth time. Um, so, as we said before, your zodiac sign tells you more about how your Venus expresses itself. So, Jasmina was saying earlier that her Venus expresses itself in Cancer. So, she has a Cancer Venus. Another
mhm.
way to say that is because we're Geminis, we like to say things we have Gemini placements, so we like
Yes,
to say things in different
yes,
ways. Is that when Jasmina was born, Venus was in the sign of Cancer. And with the
exactly.
Cancer Venus, it tells her more about how her Venus expresses itself. And if you were listening earlier, you heard Jasmina say that her Venus in Cancer likes cooking, she likes hosting people, she likes making people feel nurtured and welcome. I glean
Yeah,
that from what you were saying, and that is very
absolutely.
much what one would consider, sort of like an expression of that what we like and attract principle of Venus in Cancer.
Yeah, yeah. Food, just everything regarding food and and kitchen and tools for baking. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, what is your Venus in Aquarius attracts?
So my Venus in Aquarius, I attract. It's interesting. I had an astrologer, tell me. So I did finally get the astrology school that I went to. I finally started getting people to look at my chart. And one of the things that the astrologer said to me was that my Venus attracts controversy. I thought that was interesting. Um, but I would say one of the main hallmarks for me is that I attract a very eclectic group of friends. I sort of go out and find people in all corners of the world and make friends with them. And so I'm probably one of those people when, folks show up at a party, there's like these little factions all hanging out, but not everyone hanging out together because they're so different, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So, would you say that if friendship is very important when you relate to others, even in your romantic relationship? Is that like a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
important
The
thing?
whole when I started reading Venus stuff, it was like and then I wanted to talk about the fact that my Venus is retrograde too, which means I have to do more. I'm gonna get
Okay.
to that. How much time do we have? I don't have my
We
clock
have
up.
time.
Okay,
No, we have time. We can
perfect.
talk like more 15, 20 minutes. It's fine.
Okay. So yeah, my Venus loves I friendship is super important for me. I don't I don't consider us close if we're not friends. So
Yeah.
I have lots of friends, but when it comes to having like deep personal connections, I have a few. It's one of the things about my Venus that I'm actually trying to improve because one of the what I would say a shadow of Venus and Aquarius that resonates in my life is that I find that you know, do well with large groups of people, but I struggle and have struggled to really feel my Venus and to really develop like deeper connections with people. I told you about that the other night when we were
Oh yeah,
talking.
yeah.
How, yeah,
So
my
you mean
Venus is seeking.
one level,
Yeah,
on one level. There you
my Venus
go.
is
Hmm.
seeking deep connection because with the Venus in Aquarius, my Venus is considered a more air. It's an airy, masculine, sort of fixed expression of Venus. And so I can get rooted in patterns and sort of ways of doing things. Another shadow is, I have to pull, I do what's called ghosting. I pull my energy back when I'm like triggered or really sensitive and I need to sort of figure out what's going on with the situation. I'll sort of like
Hmm.
abruptly remove myself from social interaction, and that I'm learning is concerning for other
Yeah,
people. They don't
and
understand it. They might assume that like I'm not friends with them anymore because I'm not talking to them when really it's just my
mm,
way of sort of protecting myself. Does that make sense?
I understand. Yes, I completely understand that. I was just going to say that it makes sense, and even shadow side from my Venus, for example, I can smother everybody. I can be a mother role for everybody. Like people don't want other mothers. Like, oh, I can just overdo it. Like, oh, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you want to? I can overdo it. I can smother people, even at workplace. I would, everywhere. So I had to learn to kind of restrain that need. Like it's like a really passionate need to nurture everybody, which
I
it can be
love
really on a
I
shadow
love
side.
that about you though. I mean, so one of the things you learn as an astrologer is how to use sort of like this understanding of the chart. And even if you're not an astrologer, one of the things that we learn is if you are doing too much of one energy,
Yeah.
you look
Hmm.
to the energy of the opposite sign to sort of
Hmm.
help you integrate a little bit more balance in your life. So for me, the opposite sign of my Aquarius Venus is Leo. So
Yeah.
one of the things I just mentioned earlier was I'm looking for more, heart-centered, deeper connections, and that is something that my understanding is Leos tend to be very good at. And also, I don't like attention. I'm very like I get nervous. I was
Hmm.
like freaking out before this, and Leos are sort of, I don't want to stereotype Leo energy, but they sort of have a natural gravitas when it comes to being in a room with strangers, and I stand for that hard. I think,
Isn't this amazing? This awareness of polarity of the other side,
yeah.
understanding this. That's why I had to learn from Venus in Capricorn how to set boundaries, with
Mhm.
others.
Yeah,
Aries, they nurture to a extent to a point. You can't, suffocate people, smother them for no
exactly.
reason, right?
Exactly.
So learning
And then
boundaries.
did you also feel like you had to sort of, the stereotypically boss up a little bit and incorporate some more of that type of Capricorn energy as you integrated your Venus and Cancer?
Yes, and I'll tell you how. It's interesting how life gives you Capricorns. So I had my
Yes.
grandmother as a Capricorn. All
Mhm.
my bosses, my managers were female Capricorns. I had so many interactions on authority level. So somebody in authority, with Capricorn to learn me, to teach me to be my own authority in a way. So that's interesting how life gives you this
Oh, yeah.
opportunities to learn,
It was
right?
interesting because this is a little bit more technically difficult for some of the people in this, maybe a little bit more technically difficult to understand. But when I was having my my very challenging Pluto transit, um, the energy that I was receiving was a lot of Libra energy, and I have Libra in my fifth house of expression. So I was dealing with a lot of Libras at a time where I was sort of my self expression, which is governed by Libra energy, was being
Mm-hmm.
challenged. And so it's those are the different ways in which sort of the energy will show up in your life, and it's meant to teach you a lesson. So for me, the lesson of my Venus in Aquarius was I had an RX Venus, Jasmina. I still do. And for those of you who don't know, when you have an RX or what's called a retrograde planet in your chart, that's a planet that you want to pay a little bit more attention to, is from my experience. And so when I started looking at astrology, I was like, I want to figure out, this is my Capricorn, how to use this to my potential so that I can energetically raise my vibration, so to speak, so that I can attract better, or, the kind of Venus energy. I knew the kind of Venus energy I didn't want anymore in my life. Okay. And I think that's how a lot of us figure out what we do want. We sort of have to go through a process of elimination. And I started making decisions. I was just like, I want to be in better connections with people. I know that I'm good at connecting, but I want to be in deeper connections. So, can you still hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I hear you, see you, all is good.
Yeah. So I started making decisions about, like, I'm going to be more purposeful about my interactions with folks. I'm going to be less, I'm going to tell people when I feel like I need to ghost for a little bit, right? So going back to your point about how it helps you build awareness and have awareness,
Yeah.
And how it helps you sort of understand. And the flip side, by understanding what I didn't want, I was actually figuring out the energy that I did want to attract with my Venus, which is
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, add to your retrograde story. When you have a planet retrograde, you're going to process a learning about that planet and
yeah.
those energies more internally. So you're going to have this event happen, but then you're going to need time internally to understand what happened. When it's direct, you actually learn through outside
Mm,
experience. So, right in that spot, like, you
yeah.
have, it's especially noticeable with Mercury because it's the fastest planet, but it applies to every other planet as well. So
Mm-hmm.
in retrograde,
100%.
yeah, they need to go inwards and look internally what's happening. While direct planets, you just learn from others, like from interacting with environment around you.
And
Yeah. Hi
I
for
definitely felt
now.
that. Jasmina, you're speaking to my heart, because I definitely felt like I was doing it. I feel like I'm still doing it. A lot of soul searching internally about, sort of, what do I really desire in this life? How am I using, you know, am I using my Venus, or am I looking at Venus in a way that's aligned with where I want to be going spiritually, where I want to be going, the kinds of friends I want to have in my life,
Yeah.
the kinds of opportunities I'd like. So that's important. I wanted to also tell folks who are still here a few other ways that you can look at your Venus, and you already alluded to this when we talked about Venus being in a water sign. It's important to understand what element your
Yeah.
Venus is in. Okay, so there are 4 elements. Again, for those of you who are astrology aficionados, I apologize. We have a lot of people in here who are new to astrology. So it's important to understand that there are 4 elements. You already know them. Fire. So if your Venus is in a fire sign, that's an Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Fire sign Venuses, I just wrote it down, a couple of things, are typically associated with inspiration, being charismatic. They like and attract adventure, audiences, and new horizons. Okay. And Venus here really has a joy of life and is very inspirational in a fire sign.
Yeah, I like those Venuses.
Yeah,
I like fire.
me
Yeah.
too. So Venus in an earth sign. So the next one I wrote, Venus in an earth sign. If you have Venus in Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, then you have a earth sign Venus. These Venuses like and attract, and they sort of get like the boring descriptors. I wrote down stability, security, performance, but these are like the earth manifestors, okay? They tend to, the labels are that they tend to be a little bit more practical, systematic. They're very connected to the earth. The
Yes.
Venus here is very practical and productive, typically.
Yeah, and they're very
Yes,
fertile people in
yes, yes,
general.
yes. Especially
They can
that
produce
Taurus.
things.
Yes.
Yeah, they can produce things. Yeah.
Yeah, I joke with my tourist friends. I'm like, you guys are so resourceful. Just stop. Just it's like we all have our Achilles heels, right? I was like, Taurus, if you just knew, you literally have you just snap your fingers and the resources show up. But we all have to be able to develop awareness of those kinds of things. That's been
Absolutely.
my experience with the Tauruses in my life. And put that preface out there. If you have an air sign Venus, your Venus is in Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. So air sign Venuses tend to like and attract things through intellect, ideas, and conversation.
Mhm.
Um, they tend to be again, this is just a generalization. You have to look at other things too, but they tend to be more communicative. They like to connect. They're people connectors. They connect through conversation. Venus in an air sign has been associated with like a social butterfly.
Absolutely. Yeah. They really like to intellectualize everything and just talk about it, Let's
Yeah,
talk about it, I like the way you like like a intellect can be like a way of how do we call it? What do we call when something is attractive? Anyway, I lost the word. Anyway,
someone
yeah,
can find it for us because the word's not
yeah, like
coming to me.
yeah, like a sexy, like this is sexy for me, or the way you speak to me, that's kind of a thing that attracts air Venus,
Yeah, I like.
like
I
sexy,
get turned. I get turned on by words. Smart
right?
people. Like if it's smart
Yes,
conversation, you start telling me
right.
about astrology, and you start. I love it. Literally like just eat it
It,
all up. That's my Aquarius
I get it.
Venus. Yeah. The water Venuses. Oh my waters. A water sign Venus is they like and attract through emotional receptivity and sensitivity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There.
there can
Go
be
ahead.
intense. They can be intense as well, like all three.
Yes.
Trust me.
They tend to be
Not just
more
Scorpio.
emotionally intuitive. They sense things physically. I mean, these are the ones who are sniffing out all the stuff in the room that's not being said verbally. So they tend to be the more psychic, that's the psychics of the zodiac. Is that correct, Jasmina?
Yeah, especially Pisces. Venus in Pisces is exalted, as they say, so it's a good placement for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, the water element, it goes everywhere. It just how it goes and penetrates into everything,
Yeah,
and
because it
so
doesn't
it's very
have a
powerful,
container.
right? So it can be
Yeah.
very powerful. It can let fire out and help Earth. I don't know with air. I don't know exactly if it has any connection with air, but it's interesting. Venus is in water signs are, as I said, but they can be overly emotional. They can overly, you know, um, like Venus in Pisces can be overly romantic. It can suffocate you in that stuff. So it's overly romantic. The Venus in Cancer is overly nurturing, like smothering, and then the Venus in Scorpio is just jealous. It's overly possessive of you. So they need to learn how to contain those emotions, as you said. Otherwise, it goes everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. So, it's the element. The element of your Venus is just a reminder, is a clue to how to nurture your Venus.
Hmm.
So she's in as good capacity as she can be to help you magnetize. So the point I'm trying to make is one of the things that I started doing was looking at my Venus and saying, I don't like the kind of energy that I'm attracting. Okay. I need to figure out how to I need to, and I started saying, I don't like this. I don't like this. That was the way I figured out I could
But
start to
Diana,
figure out what I did want. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, you mentioned in the middle of our conversation that striving to be on a higher vibration, that's where you need to go. So that's what you already said. I always be on a higher. So picking the higher vibration of Aquarius, that's where you need to
Yeah.
be. Not I don't like this, but what is the higher vibration of Aquarius, and
Mm-hmm.
going there, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
attract it.
Yes,
Hello,
ma'am. Yeah.
Michaela. Yeah, yeah.
So I have one more, a couple more. I said the other thing you want to look at is what mode is your Venus in, right? If you're trying to tap
Mhm.
into the potential of your Venus, you want to know if your Venus is in one of three modes, modalities. And if your Venus is in, for example, Aries, Libra, Cancer, actually I did that the wrong order. Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, then your Venus is what we call an initiating cardinal turning mover Venus,
Mhm.
right? So typically that Venus is going to be a little bit more, that Venus is going to move. That Venus is a little bit more of a mover and shaker. If you have a mutable or adaptable Venus, that means your Venus is in Gemini. It's in Gemini, Virgo,
Virgo.
Sagittarius, or Pisces. And a mutable Venus is considered a bit more adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I learned something new, which is that depending on sort of like the degree placement, the first half of the decan or the first half of the mutables tends to be a little bit more fixed, and that the latter half can sort of the energy can be a bit more cardinal, which I thought was interesting when you think about the seasons. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole
Yeah,
for this conversation.
there's another depth. There's a lot of depth. We can go layer by layer, like an onion. Like
You're
astrology is literally like
right.
an onion with many layers.
That's why I love this stuff, because you can just keep going. And then
Yeah.
if you have a Venus in a fixed sign, so this is your Taurus Venus, your Leo Venus, your Scorpio Venus, or your Aquarius Venus, the fixed signs are typically associated with constancy. Okay, they're solid, they're stable, they don't like a lot of change. Okay, so they are the sort of like the diehard Venuses. And they got to be motivated. They need the right motivation to, change course.
I agree 100%. This is beautiful. Beautiful. So many things we learned about Venus today.
Thank
Do
you.
you have anything else do you wanna add anything else before
Yeah,
we kind
I
of
was
wrap
also,
up? Hmm.
I didn't mean to cut you off, my dear. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just going to also help tell people that it helps to know, besides the sign that your Venus is in, the element that your Venus is in, and the modality that your Venus is in, it also helps to know the house placement of your Venus and in your birth chart. And then it also helps to know or pay attention to any close aspects between Venus and any other planet, the sun or moon in your birth chart. So that's an additional layer of detail. We really were trying to focus mostly on the sign and cite to the element and the modality to help you understand the potential of your Venus a little bit more. But those are a few of the additional ways that you can really dig into your
Yeah.
lovely
Uh,
Venus placements.
you said it beautifully. The planet is what, right? The sign is
Yeah, what?
how.
Mm-hmm.
The house is where. I think
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Forrest said it or somebody. And then the aspect is actually how this is all playing out. It's
The
it's the action. So you have like
conversation.
three. Yeah, this is like a how is this, what is happening really? Like, this is a story. Aspects tell the story actually between how this energies relate to each other, and how it just manifests. I mean, it can manifest in many ways in your life, but it's just interesting that they give the story, the
Yeah.
aspects.
For 100%, it's so true. Like we're talking about Venus in a vacuum here, but really I had to, and I'm still learning more about my Venus, and I'm learning about her. I have to learn about my Venus in the context of the rest of my chart, because those planets are talking to each other. And so, if you look at my Venus and then you start talking about rulership and how,
Yeah, 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 I
Venus
was
in
gonna say, yeah,
Aquarius
yeah, there's,
is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. So you can see, like
yeah.
in me, there's very much a Saturnian Venus in me. I like stability. I don't believe in anarchy. But then there's also the Uranian part of my Venus that's like, who cares about, tradition? I don't want tradition. I want liberation. I want people to, break free from limited mindsets, and I want to help people learn astrology. Who cares if, some people think it's a cult? I'm talking about potential. I'm talking about
No, no,
alchemy in a different way, right? So
yeah, I
there
was
is
gonna
that
say,
overlay.
you said it beautifully. Your Venus is Aquarius is actually, its desires to help the community thrive through astrology. So that's exactly what you're doing in a structured way. in it, because I even today you really came prepared, structured, literally, this is what we want to talk about, and I love that with you. It just and anyway, you're doing it. You're doing your chart,
Thank
as
you.
I said.
Thank you,
When we talked
Davina.
2 weeks ago, yeah, I really, that's why I love this talk. And anyway, it's beautiful to learn the other approach, because I'm a mutable Gemini, scattered everywhere. So okay, Virgo rising is helping me. Virgo
Mhm.
rising is helping me a little bit, but overall, it was a really nice, actually interesting story, that how much you grown as an astrologer in just 2 years, and how much you achieved, and you really should be proud of yourself, because in 2 years is not a lot of time for learning something as astrology, guys. I'm telling you, it's a, and you did a lot. You did really a lot. So
Oh,
kudos to you.
that is, thank you so much. It's just, I, it was your invitation 2 weeks ago. I said, Venus and Aquarius. I'm like, I should be doing stuff on the internet, but I have insecurity with my Virgo moon, and I've been hemming and hawing about how I have to get things right, and they have to be a certain way in order for me to, like, share this information with people. And then you opened up the invitation. And I was like, you know
No,
what? I'm going to take this Gemini lady up on her offer. And I think you're Mars and Leo too, right? If I
yes,
recall
I am.
correctly.
I do have massive fear, yes.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take her up on it. And in the spirit of Venus being in Aquarius on this day, I was like, I want to do it today. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for your time and knowledge, and you really gave me some food for thought, how I'm going to approach some things in a different way now. And I want to really thank everybody for joining, for interacting, for see Dream the many Rosemary. She said, great team effort, so interesting and illuminating. Thank you so much. And sharing foods, loves, send her love, and reclaiming peace of me. That was great. You're inspiring. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank
Um, I
you.
hope you're gonna make another video on some other topic, because I think many people can just. I hope you're gonna teach soon, and then because I think people can learn from you in a very
I would
structured.
love that. My Venus is very open right now and receptive, so I'm open to that, and I would love to do those other topics that we had put the votes out
Yes,
for.
yes,
We're
yes,
also, I think I would love to do a mutables topic with
yes.
you and Jasmine.
Yes, please.
So
Yes,
yeah.
please. Yes, I'm totally mutable. I'm totally mutable. If you see my chart, I am really mutable girl. And many people actually wanted to talk about the mutability, so we can do that soon as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
I'm
uh,
looking forward to it.
okay. Thank you again. Thank you for everything. Thanks everybody. Hugs and kisses, as my son would say. And see you soon on another topic. Okay. Bye.
Bye.